Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending when you're watching or listening. Today, I want to share with you another clip from one of our previous seminars. And one of the things I'm passionate about is this idea of personal transformation, how our mind works, both on a conscious and subconscious level. How do you begin to attract the things that you want in your life and everything encompassed into that? So I think you're going to enjoy today. I love sharing some of this with you, and hopefully one day that we get to see you at one of our live events as well too. Would love to have you there, whether that's virtually you're attending or in person. You can check my website for that, more information on that. And as always, I just want to challenge you to keep moving forward, keep growing, be a person that not only learns but applies. It's so easy for us to just listen to the next podcast, the next podcast, the next podcast, the next YouTube, go to the next thing, go to the next thing, and then we're not applying, and we become information junkies, and we're consuming more and more information, but we're not applying what we're learning. And today, there's so much information available, which is a wonderful thing. However, if we don't apply that in our lives, we never develop the wisdom, because the real teacher of your life is your life experience. This is how you begin to learn. And when you begin to shift your thoughts, shift your feelings, shift your behaviors, you begin to produce new results in your life. And when these new results happen, these reactions to the actions of your thought, feeling, and behaviors begin to show you that, okay, I did this, I was thinking this way, this showed up in my life, and now I saw it happen. And it's no longer an intellectual idea, but instead, I've experienced this in my life. I know this to be true. So I think you'll enjoy today. As always, hey, love seeing your comments. Thank you anytime, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Apple, any of the podcast platforms. Thank you for the comments. Thanks for being a part of this community. And if you're new to the show, make sure you subscribe and share this episode with somebody too. See you. So it's our responsibility to change, right? We recognize that. Up to this point, if you weren't aware of this, that's fine. Some of you have been, and maybe we've been using that power, maybe we haven't, but today's a new day. As Barry said, the past is the past. We don't have to worry about it. And if we go back to our basic model here, here's my results in life. Here's what I'm looking to create. That's the health, that's the wealth, that's the body, the relationships, the money, all that stuff. And my action and attraction is what's determining my results in my life. So the way I act and what I'm attracting is how the rest of my life experience it shows up. My mind is controlling those two things. We've spent primarily time talking about how the mind is influencing our behavior and our actions. We'll come to the other stuff later. And 95% of who I am is a subconscious set of programs. So it's happening without me thinking. Subconscious, sub mean below, right? Below the level of awareness. I'm not aware this is happening. To become conscious is to become more aware. Who's with me? So 95% of who I am is below my level of awareness. I'm not recognizing this is happening, but the act of waking up, the act of becoming more conscious is to start to notice the thoughts, to pay attention to what you're thinking. Is called metacognition, to think about what am I thinking about, to notice the feelings and to notice the behaviors. And the more aware we become, once I start to notice I'm going into that program of lack, that program of things that don't work in our lives, and I become aware of the thought, I have the ability to stop thinking the thought. A thought is just a thought. Nothing has any meaning other than the meaning you attach to it. I could think I want a cup of coffee. That's a thought. I don't like my life right now. It's just a thought. You don't have to identify with the thought. So when a thought that you don't want, if you want to call it negative, but a thought that you don't want comes in and you're aware of it, you don't have to give it any meaning. You don't have to start, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I can't believe I thought it. Who cares? It's just a thought. Oh, that was one of 70,000 I'm going to have today. Who cares? It's just a thought. So mind is determining how I'm acting, what I'm attracting, ultimately my results. What happened in the subconscious was the programming. So the program is determining the majority of how I'm showing up in life. We all get that, right? It's the automatic part of your personality. It's the habitual side of who you are. And then we talked about where we left off, is it's time for a new update. It's time to alter the programming, right? I don't think this is in your workbook, so you can just write on whatever notes you're writing, but I want you to pick, maybe 1 or 2 areas that you want to update the programming. We don't need the whole story right now. I just want 1 or 2 areas. I want to update the programming in my marriage or my relationships. I want to update the program around money. I want to update the program around happiness, whatever. 1 or 2 areas. Okay, good. You got some areas? At least 1? So again, we talked about the mind too. The mind often, at least the subconscious, is like a garden, the most fertile garden that exists. Whatever you plant is going to grow. Whatever you place your attention on is going to put more energy on it. And where you put your energy is ultimately what's creating your life. If I'm focused on how my life isn't working for me in this area, all I'm doing is I'm going to the garden, I'm adding fertilizer, I'm watering it, I'm bringing out artificial sunlight, extra sunlight, so I can help it. I'm just adding to the situation. I'm growing more of the thing that I don't want. Whatever you're placing your attention on, focus on, is what's going into your mind. Your mind is always listening. We know that, right? Now, the subconscious isn't always necessarily open. Often it's closed, but it's always listening. And we become what we repeat. We become what we habitually think, feel, and act on. So if I keep thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same way, acting the same way, creating the same experiences, feeling the reactions of that, and then I'm thinking from that all those things, then I'm stuck in this autopilot of where my life isn't changing. I can look at the yield of the garden and say, damn these tomatoes. I don't like these tomatoes. So then you prune the tomatoes and you think it's still growing tomatoes. And you're focusing on the effect and not the cause. You with me? So we have to look at the garden and think, okay, well, if I want to change the fruit of the garden, then I need to change the seed in the garden. Harbecker always said, if you want to change the fruits, you need to change the roots. And that makes sense, right? I need a different plant in my mind. I need something different that I'm going to plant into my mind. And the basic question that we're going to come up to a lot today is, here's a really simple question. What do I want? It's the most basic question, yet it's probably one of the most important questions you're going to continue to ask yourself for the rest of your life. Most people have developed a habit, which has become part of their personality, part of the subconscious nature of who they are, of focusing on what they don't want rather than what we do want. And if it's we often like simplicity, but we don't like simplicity. I mean, if I told you that, listen, life is as simple as just spending the majority of your time thinking about what you want rather than what you don't want, most of us wouldn't accept that. We say, no, it's not like that. It's much more complex than that. But if those of us, that are in a relationship, how many of you guys are in a relationship? Okay. Anyone, one of the things you want to manifest is a relationship? Anybody? A few? Kind of. Good. Okay, if we're in a relationship, and you could translate this to any kind of relationship you want, and we were to spend most of our time focusing on what we liked about that person rather than what we didn't like about that person, would our experience of them be different? Absolutely. Did they change? Not at all. You just change your perception. That's all that it is. So focusing on what you want is such a powerful thing. And if we're going to change our life, then we have to learn to practice thinking about, what do I want? Writing these ideas down, picturing these ideas, imagining these ideas. And the more I practice this, the more I start to move towards changing the old personality, changing the old self, changing the subconscious. But if I do this once and I never look at it again, some of you guys, I've done this, years before, where I would write goals at the start of the year, and that was the extent of it. How come it didn't change? What the hell? I wrote those down. I thought about them. that day. You know? So it's repetition, repetition, repetition. I can have a traumatic event, and that causes me to change. I'm not going to live that way anymore, but we can't plan for that. So then it's repetition. It's the garden. I'm going to the garden of the mind, and I'm going to plant the new seed. But if I plant the new seed and I don't take care of it, then weeds will overgrow. Right? And the weeds in our lives are things that we don't want. This is what I don't want to experience. And then most of us, we say, the weeds are there. Damn the weeds. I'm tired of the weeds. I hate these weeds. That's not the solution. Focusing on what you don't want does not change it. Now, the good news is what you don't want helps you in developing more clarity around, okay, well, what actually do I want? So, if you go to page 8 in your workbook, you're going to see it says My Want List. Now, by the way I designed the workbook, the way we designed the workbook, is there's a whole bunch of stuff to read in there, but that's not for you today, okay? That's for you later, so you can take the workbook with you and remember some of these ideas and rehearse them mentally. So a lot of the concepts we're going to talk about are written in detail in the workbook, so we can study that and practice that. So page 8, My Want List. All we're going to do, I'm going to give you, 7-ish minutes or so, and you're just going to work on things you want. And if something comes to mind that you don't want, all you're going to use is that as a trigger. Don't get upset, but there's an opposite to that then, right? So we're not trying to write down, okay, I don't want to be broke. That is not a want. That is a don't want, right? I don't want to be stressed. That is not a want. That is a don't want. So only wants. That's it. No limitation. Doesn't matter. Sky's the limit. Whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Just point form at this point. Things that you want. Things you want to be. Things you want to have. Things you want to do. Places you want to go. Things that you want in your life.